So what's next?
What's next?
What's next?
What's next?
What's next?
So what's next?
Before we talk about what's next, it's really important to understand how it all got started. In the summer of 2006, a number of folks, my family included, moved here to the Triad, and we started Christ Church High Point. And we began worshiping at a hotel. We called it St. Ashford's and the Suites.
We were at a nursing home or a elderly care facility, I don't remember the name, in High Point, a borrowed chapel, and everybody was put to work. There were so few of us, even the visitors were put to work, which we were visitors at that point.
I think Jim and I showed up at the third service. This was back when we were meeting in a chapel over on the Wesleyan campus over in High Point. So it was in 2006, I remember, August of 2006.
In the fall of 2008, it became clear that there were two centers of gravity. The group in Winston-Salem took the name Christ Church and formed Christ Church Winston-Salem. On December 16th in 2008 at Peace United Church of Christ Chapel, there were about 72 of us. We embarked on this exciting vision of planting Church of the Redeemer, and we launched with that first initial service on that December eve. By spring of 2009, we needed a new space, and so we began knocking on doors of other churches. So we moved from central Greensboro up to the northwest side and began holding worship services on Sunday evenings at Jessup Grove Baptist Church.
I remember walking in to the church over on Jessup Grove, and we walked in and there were maybe 20, 25 people in there. It was small. It was, very close-knit, and everybody had to do something just to pull off a Sunday service.
It became clear that we could not fit into Jessup Grove Baptist Church anymore, so we began looking for a new place, and what opened up for us was Burr Mill Community Center, which is far out in the north part of Greensboro. In the spring of 2013, once again, we had this problem. We'd outgrown our capacity. But by God's grace, the principal at Western Guilford High School opened the doors and said, come and worship here. And so we took a step, we did an experimental run, and we moved into the campus in the fall of 2013 at Western Guilford High School. So in the fall of 2009, after a lot of prayer and thinking, I really felt impressed upon by the Lord to lay out this vision of our life together as a church. So I came to a meeting at Lynn and Larry Boast's house. It was our early leadership team, and I shared with them these 4 pieces. And the 4 pieces were the parish, the worshiping, forming people of God, the park, a place of beauty, the farm, a place of growth and creation care, and then lastly, the center, a place of mission, the ministry arm of our life together. And so on this night at Lynn and Larry Boast's, I shared this grand vision, expecting applause, and it was nothing but silence.
The first time I heard about the vision, wow, it was just so out there. I'd never heard that before.
At some degree, it was kind of daunting. You look at it and say, oh, a farm, so that's okay.
You have to understand, this isn't normal. This isn't a normal, traditional church vision. You have to appreciate that. And then to put it in the middle of a church plant evolution has to be from God. No one in their right mind, unless they are inspired by the Holy Spirit, would think of introducing such a complex notion.
But Alan casts vision, and then he also fills in the blanks. And so he was very good at describing all of those different components and how they fit together.
So there were some things that were pretty radical about it in the sense of our normalcy we had grown to over the years with what we thought church was, but at the same time, this felt way more like community.
The first time I heard about Parish Park Farm, at the time it was Center and now it's Abbey, I was captivated. I really was. To me, it captured what I felt like the church should be.
Now that I've been walking in that vision for 10 years, I see how
all of these pieces come together to help us reach people that we would not reach, to help us take people deeper than we could ever take them without it.
Even after we moved into these different spaces and places, the vision, really encapsulated in the phrase Project New Garden, never went away. We just knew there was a timing and there was a waiting on the Lord for this to become fully realized. In the spring of 2016, the commercial real estate broker for the property out here at New Garden Park called me, and he said, "I've got the space for you." And of course, I didn't believe it. I know how much it costs to build buildings and buy places. But he said, just do this. Drive out to this place, New Garden Landscaping and Design. Take a look and give me a call. So I came out here one afternoon during working hours, walked into the greenhouse, into the place where our sanctuary is, and it was as if this wave of peace and encouragement hit me. Almost like in an inaudible voice, the Lord was saying, you will be here as a church soon.
Phase one for us, there was a lot of faith involved in it. So I was on the vestry at the time, and we really had to look and say, hey, we think that this is divine providence that God is leading us to this place. So many things were coming in, clicking into place that just seemed like they couldn't have been orchestrated any better.
And then all of a sudden, this place became available. The man who sold it to us had originally had a vision for a church on this property. The name fit, the parameters, everything kind of fell into place, and it was almost like that last turn of the key where everything clicks into place. And you just could exhale and say, Lord, you are at work. We've been faithful, you are so faithful. And so that to me, it's very much confirmation all the way down the line.
I had the idea in my brain that the farm and park would be out somewhere, somewhere not in town for sure. And then the center and parish would be in town somewhere. Then when the idea came up that, wait a minute, God has brought us a place that all of this is in one location, I was blown away. So really, when it came time to vote and decide, is this where God's leading us? It was a big, I'll raise my hand and my family will be totally all in on that.
We were wandering nomads and moved around a lot, and it felt difficult to find an identity without having a place, especially with our youth ministry. Our kids met in high schools. We met in a place called the Harry, which was a former pet hair salon. We met all over the place, but being here has allowed our kids to have ownership and a place of belonging, and it's allowed our kids to interact with a lot of people that they normally were separated from.
After we'd had conversations with the owners of this place, we'd worked through some agreements about purchase. We talked about this as a vestry. We had a town hall. A group of about 60 of us met out on the patio, and it was there we took our first vote. Our vote to buy this first section, phase one of New Garden Park. That phase one included the building, the sanctuary that we know, the greenhouse, and just a little bit of land outside of there. But it was a small step. Phase one, this first part of this purchase, knowing that 4 years later we would step into the second part, phase two, what we're calling New Garden Next. Phase two, what we are calling New Garden Next, is the full expansion of us buying all the property and living into the vision out here with our farm, our park, our abbey, and our parish. It has several pieces to it, several parts that we consider of high value for us to fully operate here as we've articulated in our vision.
This campaign was developed by the senior staff at Church of the Redeemer, along with the park director and the farm director in collaboration with the vestry, bringing all the different pieces of expertise and knowledge together to determine what would be included in this New Garden Next campaign.
When we first moved onto this property, we knew that there was going to be more. We even signed an intent letter for expansion of our property here or what we're doing here. And God has continued to open new doors to us too that we didn't even really realize. I mean, when you do something as innovative as a parish park farm center, you've got to expect that God's going to do unexpected things.
Here's what's next. $25,000 for the Kamate School, which is a local school for our sister parish in Rwanda. $40,000 for the Greenhouse Walkway, which is a covered walkway from the greenhouse to the modulars for those rainy days. $60,000 for the modulars to purchase the currently leased units that house all our youth and children's classes. $60,000 for property upgrades, upgrading our usable park and farm areas, rework our entry area, and upfit the greenhouse. $140,000 for offices, office buildings across the parking lot for Redeemer staff and Abbey Ministries. $250,000 for operational reserve for emergency expenses. $500,000 for Phase 2, 8 acres of land for expanded farm, park, and Abbey activities, purchasing the land the modulars are located on and expanding future ministry spaces to include picnic shelters and usable green space. $580,000 for the Phase 1 loan to pay off our existing loan and to be debt-free.
When we did Phase 1 and kind of inked that deal, Phase 2 was this thing that was really far away, and now here we are, right? And so to see we're at Phase 2, we're at a place where we've seen God be faithful for Phase 1, and we've seen our plans continue to grow. And for Phase 2, for me, it feels like we're at this place where now is the time to do it.
Phase 2, I think, is a natural growing step to the dream and the vision and to the particular calling that God has given us as a church here in Greensboro.
Anytime that a place is made more beautiful, I think it reflects more fully God's beauty. And so I think it's really exciting to think about how our land and park will flourish over the next few years as we enter into our New Garden Next campaign.
I don't see Phase 1 and Phase 2 as being separate pieces. It's all one big piece of stepping into the vision that God has for us and stepping into the ministries that God has for us as individuals and as a body. So Phase 2 to me is just as much of a no-brainer as Phase 1. Expanding the farm, reaching out, being able to reach out, building the school, all the things that we're going to be doing are really integral parts of the ministry of Church of the Redeemer and the vision that God has given us.
Submit this whole effort to prayer. Because God will let you know what He wants you to do. Give whatever is on your heart. Give whatever God moves you to give. And in that obedience, you'll be blessing the Lord's efforts, and He'll bless you in return.
And it's a commitment, and it's going to require some sacrifice. It's also going to require some rolling of the sleeves of everybody. But that builds community, and that brings us together.